All right, so my name is Sean McAfee. I run the DFW series. I am also just a little bit of a Zwift fanatic. I spend about an average of 7 hours a week riding and racing on Zwift. My Zwift Power racing resume includes roughly about 500 plus races. In January 2023, a new challenge hit the roads of Watopia. It's a year-long racing series. It spans 9 months, and it's called the Chasing Tour. The Chasing Tour 2023 includes 90 races throughout the year, has 6 GC stage races, and 6 single-day classics races. All of that includes just a hell of a lot of suffering. So I'm just enough of a freak that I was 100% bought into this series as soon as I heard about it. Next week, in July 4th, I believe, on the holiday, we start the second of the big 3-week Grand Tours. And this is the Chasing Yellow Grand Tour. It's gonna have us racing 18 days out of 21 total. So my goal for that span of 3 weeks of racing is I'm going to try to make a 1-minute short each day that kind of recaps that day's race, and a once a week recap video that shows a little bit more of how everything played out throughout the week, and that's throughout the Chasing Yellow series. Lots of work on a limited schedule. Today I wanted to take a quick little brief though and look at the background for A, what the rules of the competition are, B, where I'm currently standing in the year-long competition, C, how I performed up until this point in the competition, and D, what the route selection looks like for a 3-week Grand Tour on Zwift. So first point that we want to talk about, what are the rules of the competition? So the Chasing Tour, it's a year-long competition. It's been broken down into some smaller series to make it more digestible and to get more racers participating. Racing categories are all determined by the ZwiftRacing.app formula. This is a little bit different than the standard Zwift categorization of A, B, C, D. The ZwiftRacing.app has you broken down into similar segments, but they're a little bit different, and it has changed a little bit since the start of the year anyway. At the beginning of the series of this year, I was placed into the gold category, and I get to race that category the entire year. So even if I upgrade on Zwift Racing or on Zwift Power, if I go from a B racer to an A racer, as far as it's concerned for the Chasing Tour, I stay in the same category throughout the entire year. So the annual competition is determined by points that you earn for finishing each stage. In addition, the top 15 finishers of each stage will earn bonus points. The competition for those top 15 finishing positions is absolutely brutal. The one more wrinkle that really adds a big layer to this is that these races are all mass start, meaning that all of the categories, whether you are a D, C, B, or A, all of them are visible and start together, and you benefit from drafting the higher categories. So point number B here, where I stand in this year-long competition. So currently in the year-long competition, I am in 18th place out of 1,767 total participants in the gold category. That's essentially the B category. That includes about 35 races to this date. I did miss 2 races, one of the classics and one of the Chasing Tuesday races, because I was out on a vacation. My goal for the year is a top 10 in this competition. So how have I actually performed to this point in the competition to get into 18th place? So that's a little longer story. The tour started in March with the Chasing Azure series. That was a 7-day stage race, and I finished in 28th out of 75 qualifying racers in the gold competition. So the Chasing Azure was followed up by the Chasing Classics schedule, and that included 8 one-day races that were basically followed the Monuments and the Professional Classics calendar. In that competition, I finished in 18th out of 72 qualifying finishers. So the next up came the real challenge, and that was the first of the 3-week Grand Tours, the Chasing Pink series, which follows and mirrors the Giro d'Italia. It had 18 stages of racing across 3 weeks' time. The series allowed for 3 missed races, but you are required to finish both. There's 2 individual time trials that had to be counted. I finished every race of the 3-week series, all 18 of them, and my final result was 23rd out of just 35 total qualifying finishers. So after the Chasing Pink series, we had the month of June, which included a race every Tuesday called the Chasing Tuesdays. Very low in attendance. They've been light, and I've actually podiumed 2 out of the 3 that I've attended. So that brings us to the next, big 3-week Grand Tour, the Big Daddy, Chasing Yellow. And this is the one that actually mirrors the Tour de France. The GC competition is going to be calculated by time back from the leader, and points are awarded to the top 15 finishers of each stage. And my focus is on getting as many bonus points in the Chasing Yellow as possible from those top 15 finishes. I do intend to make all 18 of the stages. I should be able to make that happen. And hopefully I can get into the top 15 as often as possible. There is, seriously, a lot of climbing on this, the Chasing Yellow. It's got over 37,000 feet of climbing across 434 miles of racing, and that's going to be all within 3 weeks' time. There is one individual time trial as part of the Chasing Yellow series, and that is required to finish. If I miss the ITT, it would remove me from the series results. So that's kind of the gist of the Chasing Yellow. The breakdown per week. So week 1 is 145 miles and 13,779 feet of climbing. Week number 2 is a little bit worse, a little bit of a bigger week, 150 miles and 14,829 feet of elevation gain. And finally, week 3, which looks like the easiest on paper, it's got 139 miles and 8,612 feet of elevation gain. Chasing Yellow does start next week, and hopefully I can knock out a summary each week and each day of my progress. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow along.